I'll destroy you all. Seth Rollins reacts to Paul Heyman's betrayal address on WWE Raw. You know what makes me absolutely sick? Paul Heyman spent 27 minutes on Monday Night Raw spinning his web of lies, justifying the unjustifiable, manipulating the narrative to make Seth Rollins look like he deserved to be betrayed by Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, and WWE had the nerve to act like they weren't going to give Seth a chance to respond. They wanted Heyman's poison to sit in the minds of fans for an entire week, to let that twisted version of events become the official story before Seth could defend himself. But what happened next? Seth's explosive reaction that came later in the show was so intense, so unhinged, so dangerous that it's clear we're witnessing a man who's been pushed past his breaking point and is about to burn the entire WWE system to the ground. I'm about to break down the most unhinged promo of Seth Rollins' career, analyze every threat he made, decode the hidden messages that suggest he's planning something massive, and expose why WWE officials are reportedly terrified of what Seth might do next, because his reaction wasn't just angry, it was revolutionary. And before you think this is just typical wrestling drama, wait until you hear what Seth said about Paul Heyman, that has legal implications, what he revealed about Braun and Bronson that they definitely didn't want public, and the chilling final warning he issued that suggests someone's career is about to end. Let's set the stage for what might be the most important Monday Night Raw segment of the year. Paul Heyman's promo happened in the first hour, classic Heyman, controlling the narrative, making the betrayal of Seth Rollins sound like justified business rather than cowardly assault. The crowd was divided, which is exactly what Heyman wanted. Some people bought his arguments about Seth being a hypocrite who betrayed the Shield. Others were furious at the manipulation and wanted Seth to respond immediately. But Seth didn't respond immediately. That's the key detail everyone's overlooking. WWE went to commercial after Heyman's promo. Then they did another match. Then another segment. Then more commercials. They were clearly stalling, and backstage rumors suggest it's because Seth Rollins was in Triple H's office having an explosive confrontation about whether he'd be allowed to respond at all. According to sources who were backstage during this chaos, Seth was furious that WWE opened the show with Heyman's promo without giving him advance notice. Seth reportedly burst into Triple H's office and demanded, "You let that manipulative bastard spend half an hour burying me on live television, and nobody thought to tell me this was happening? Nobody thought I might want to prepare a response." Triple H allegedly tried to calm him down. "Seth, we need you to stay cool. This is a worked program. Heyman's promo was designed to get heat. Your response needs to be measured," and that's when Seth apparently lost it. Measured. Heyman just called me a hypocrite, a failure, and a manipulator in front of millions of people, and you want me to be measured? No. I'm going out there, and I'm going to say exactly what I think about Paul Heyman, about Braun Breaker, about Bronson Reed, and about anyone else who thinks they can destroy my career without consequences. Triple H realized he couldn't control Seth in that moment, so he made a decision that was either brilliant or reckless. He gave Seth 20 minutes of uninterrupted microphone time to respond however he wanted. No script. No bullet points. Just raw, unfiltered Seth Rollins with a microphone and a lot of rage to express question for the comments. Have you ever seen Seth Rollins this angry before? What's the angriest Seth Rollins moment in your memory? Let me know. So we're in the third hour of Raw. The crowd has been chanting "We want Seth" intermittently throughout the show. The anticipation is building. And then finally Seth Rollins' music hits, and the place explodes. But the Seth Rollins who walks out is different from any version we've seen before. He's not in his colorful ring gear. He's wearing all black jeans, black shirt, black jacket. His hair is pulled back. His jaw is clenched. And his eyes? His eyes have this absolutely terrifying intensity that makes it clear this isn't the visionary Seth Rollins or the revolutionary Seth Rollins. This is angry Seth. Dangerous Seth. Unhinged Seth. He storms to the ring, not his usual confident swagger, but a man on a mission walk. He snatches the microphone from the ring announcer so aggressively that she flinches. The crowd is roaring, fully behind him, chanting, "Seth is gonna kill you," before he even says a word. Seth stands in the center of the ring, breathing heavily, looking around at the crowd with an expression that's somewhere between gratitude for their support and absolute fury at his situation. And then he speaks, and his voice is shaking with barely controlled rage. "Paul Heyman." Just those two words, said with so much venom that you can feel the hatred radiating through the television. The crowd pops huge. "You spineless, manipulative, lying son of a bitch." Whoa. Seth just crossed a line. That's personal language that goes beyond typical wrestling trash talk. The crowd is going insane, and you can tell Seth doesn't care about TVPG restrictions right now. "You stood in this ring for damn near half an hour today, running your mouth about me, about my career, about my character, spinning your pathetic little narratives to justify what Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed did to me. You talked about the Shield betrayal from 2014 like that gives anyone the right to ambush me, to attack me, to try to end my career." Seth's pacing now, and it's the dangerous predator pacing where you can tell he's barely containing himself from physically attacking someone. "But here's what you didn't talk about, Paul. Here's what you conveniently left out of your little history lesson. You didn't talk about how I've spent the last decade trying to make up for that betrayal. You didn't mention how I've put over talent, how I've had incredible matches with everyone, how I've done everything WWE has asked me to do to prove I'm not that person anymore. You didn't mention that because it doesn't fit your narrative. Because if you acknowledge that I've changed, that I've grown, that I've become a better person and a better wrestler, well, then your whole justification for what Braun and Bronson did falls apart, doesn't it? The crowd is eating this up, and Seth's just getting started. But you know what really pisses me off about your little speech, Paul? It's not the lies. It's not the manipulation. It's the cowardice. Because you stood out here for 27 minutes talking about me, but you know what you didn't do? You didn't call me out. You didn't challenge me to my face. You waited until you were done with your little performance and you were safely backstage before I even knew it happened. This is a shoot on how WWE structured the show, and everyone recognizes it. Seth's breaking the fourth wall and exposing how Heyman was protected from having to face immediate confrontation. So let me make this crystal clear, Paul Heyman. Since you seem to have so much to say about Seth Rollins, let's do this face to face. Get your ass out here right now, and let's have an actual conversation instead of you monologuing without anyone to challenge your bullshit. The crowd is chanting Heyman's gonna die now, and everyone's looking at the entrance ramp waiting to see if Heyman will actually appear. 20 seconds pass. 30 seconds. A minute. Seth laughs, but it's not his usual laugh. It's dark and bitter and absolutely chilling. Of course you're not coming out. Because Paul Heyman is a coward who only talks tough when there's no chance of actual confrontation. You're the guy who hides behind Brock Lesnar, behind Roman Reigns, behind CM Punk, behind whoever will give you protection because you know that without those shields, you're just a middle-aged man who'd get his ass kicked by half the roster. Brutal. Seth just called out Heyman's entire career strategy of aligning with monsters who can protect him physically. Drop your comment now. Do you think Paul Heyman is a coward for not confronting Seth face to face, or was he smart to avoid the confrontation? Tell me your take. But that's fine, Paul. You stay back there in your safe little locker room. Because this message isn't just for you anyway. This is for Braun Breaker. This is for Bronson Reed. This is for anyone who thinks that what happened to me is just going to go unanswered. Seth's voice is getting louder now, more intense, building to something explosive. Braun Breaker, you think you're a badass because you come from the Steiner family? You think that genetic legacy makes you special? Let me tell you something about legacy, kid. Legacy means nothing if you can't back it up. And attacking me from behind, jumping me when I trusted you, using Paul Heyman's manipulation to justify your cowardice? That's not building a legacy. That's destroying whatever credibility you might have had. Your uncle Scott Steiner? He was a legitimate tough guy who would fight anyone, anywhere. Your dad Rick? Same thing. They built their reputations through competition, through proving they were better than everyone else in that ring. But you built your reputation through betrayal, through ambush, through being Paul Heyman's little puppet. The crowd is chanting Steroid Freak, a reference to Scott Steiner's old gimmick, and Seth actually smiles for the first time. So here's what's going to happen, Braun. You and me are going to have a match. Not next week, not next month, but soon. And in that match, I'm going to do something that your famous family members never experienced. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to expose you as the overhyped, overrated, genetic lottery winner that you really are. And when I'm done with you, the only thing people will remember about Braun Breaker is that he was the guy who thought he could replace Seth Rollins but ended up being just another cautionary tale. That's not just a challenge, that's a promise. Seth's essentially vowing to end Braun's main event push before it really begins. Then Seth turns his attention to Bronson Reed, and somehow his voice gets even more dangerous. Bronson Reed, you colossal piece of garbage. You tsunami splashing, no personality having, mindless monster. At least Braun has the excuse of being young and stupid and easily manipulated by Paul Heyman. What's your excuse? You're a grown man who should know better. You're a veteran who's been in this business long enough to understand that what you did wasn't just wrong, it was pathetic. You want to be known as a monster? You want to be feared? Let me tell you something about real monsters in this business. Real monsters don't need to ambush people. Real monsters don't need to attack in groups. Real monsters stand alone and dare anyone to step up. But you're not a real monster. You're just a big bully who needs backup to feel tough. Seth's absolutely destroying Bronson's character here, questioning his toughness and his credibility as a legitimate threat. So here's my challenge to you, Bronson. You and me. One-on-one. No Paul Heyman. No Braun Breaker. No interference. Just you and me in this ring, and we see if you're really as dangerous as you pretend to be. Because I think everyone in this arena agrees with me, that without your size advantage and without the numbers game, you're just another big man who can't hang with real wrestlers. The crowd is going absolutely insane. Seth just challenged both Braun and Bronson to singles matches, essentially promising to dismantle the Vision piece by piece. But then Seth does something unexpected. His voice drops to almost a whisper, but the intensity increases. But those matches? Those are just the beginning. Because Paul Heyman made a critical mistake in his little promo today. He admitted, maybe without even realizing it, that there's someone else behind all of this. Someone pulling the strings. Someone who orchestrated my destruction because they have something to gain from getting me out of the way. Everyone leans forward. This is new information that even hardcore fans weren't expecting. Paul said, and I quote, "If Braun and Bronson were to approach me and ask for my guidance, I wouldn't say no if they approached him. But Paul, here's the thing, they did approach you. They did ask for your guidance. And you gave it to them before they attacked me. Which means you knew this was going to happen. Which means you were involved in planning this entire thing." Seth's doing detective work on live television, exposing inconsistencies in Heyman's story that prove Heyman was lying about being just an observer. So that brings me to the real question. Paul Heyman doesn't do anything without a reason. Paul Heyman doesn't align with people unless there's something in it for him, which means someone is paying him. Someone is promising him something. Someone with power and influence is using Paul Heyman as their mouthpiece and Braun and Bronson as their weapons to take me out. The arena is silent now, hanging on every word. And I know who it is. Boom. Seth just claimed he knows the identity of the mystery mastermind. What's your theory? Who do you think is behind the conspiracy against Seth? Drop your guess in the comments before I reveal what Seth said. The crowd erupts because everyone wants to know who Seth's talking about. Seth lets the moment breathe, building tension like only a master storyteller can. I'm not going to say the name right now. Not because I'm scared. Not because I don't have proof. But because I want them to sweat. I want them to wonder if I'm talking about them. I want them to lose sleep wondering when I'm going to expose them on live television in front of the entire world. That's psychological warfare. Seth's essentially saying he has information that could destroy someone's career or reputation, and he's choosing to weaponize the anticipation rather than just revealing it immediately. But here's what I will say. To the person orchestrating this, and you know who you are, understand something very clearly. You might have gotten the jump on me. You might have taken me out temporarily. You might have even convinced yourself that you've won. But all you've actually done is make me angry. And an angry Seth Rollins is the most dangerous version of me that's ever existed. Seth's voice is building again, getting louder and more intense with each sentence. The Seth Rollins who broke up the Shield? That was strategic. That was calculated. That was business. But this Seth Rollins? The one you're dealing with now? This is personal. This is emotional. This is me with nothing to lose and everything to prove. And that makes me unpredictable. That makes me reckless. That makes me willing to do things I would never have considered before. This is scary. Seth's essentially promising to break rules, cross lines, and do whatever it takes to get revenge. This isn't heroic babyface talk, this is villain talk from a protagonist who's been pushed too far. So Braun Breaker, I'm coming for you, and I'm going to end your push before it begins. Bronson Reed, I'm coming for you, and I'm going to expose you as the fraud you are. Paul Heyman, I'm coming for you, and I'm going to make you regret ever speaking my name. And whoever's pulling the strings? I'm coming for you last, because I want you to watch everything you've built crumble before I take you out myself. Seth's laying out his entire revenge tour, promising to systematically destroy everyone involved in his betrayal. You want to know what the title of this chapter of Seth Rollins' career is? It's called I'll Destroy You All. Not I'll Beat You. Not I'll Overcome the Odds. I'll destroy you all. And when I'm done, when everyone who conspired against me is broken and beaten and wondering what the hell they were thinking when they decided to make an enemy out of me, then maybe I'll find some peace. The crowd is losing their minds. This is the most aggressive, most threatening, most dangerous Seth Rollins has ever been on a microphone. This isn't about championships anymore. This isn't about main eventing WrestleMania. This isn't about legacy or Hall of Fame or any of that corporate garbage. This is about revenge. Pure, simple, personal revenge against everyone who thought they could destroy Seth Rollins and walk away unscathed. Seth drops the microphone and starts to leave the ring, but then he stops, picks it back up, and delivers one final message. Oh, and Paul? One more thing. You talked about the Shield betrayal like it's the defining moment of my career. Like it's this unforgivable sin that justifies everything that's happened to me. But you know what I remember about that betrayal? I remember it made me WWE champion. I remember it made me the most successful member of the Shield. I remember it taught me that sometimes you have to do terrible things to achieve greatness. And if that's the lesson you want to remind me of, if you want to bring back that version of Seth Rollins, be careful what you wish for. Because that Seth Rollins was ruthless. That Seth Rollins had no limits. That Seth Rollins would burn this entire company to the ground if it meant getting what he wanted. And you're about to find out that bringing him back was the biggest mistake of your life. Holy shit. Seth just threatened to go full heel, to embrace his darkest impulses, to become the villain again if that's what it takes to get revenge. That's a complete character shift that changes everything about how the storyline could develop. Seth drops the microphone one final time, and this time he throws it at the hard camera, nearly hitting the cameraman, and storms out through the crowd, slapping hands with fans aggressively, almost violently, like he's channeling his rage into every interaction. The arena is in chaos. Commentators don't even know what to say. Michael Cole is just repeating, oh my god, over and over. The crowd is split between chanting Seth's gonna kill you and holy shit and this is awesome. And here's where it gets even more interesting, the backstage reaction. According to multiple sources, Paul Heyman was watching Seth's promo from the safety of his locker room, and as Seth's threats got more and more intense, Heyman's expression allegedly went from amused to genuinely concerned. When Seth said, I know who it is, Heyman reportedly grabbed his phone and started making calls, presumably to whoever's actually orchestrating this conspiracy. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were apparently in the gorilla position ready to potentially interrupt Seth's promo if WWE officials gave them the green light, but the decision was made to let Seth have his full say without interruption. When they heard Seth promise to destroy them all, Braun allegedly said to Bronson, we might have just made the biggest mistake of our careers. What was your favorite line from Seth's promo? Quote it in the comments below. Triple H was reportedly watching from his office with several other WWE executives, and the room was tense. According to sources, when Seth threatened to burn the company to the ground, one executive asked if they should cut to commercial or cut Seth's microphone, but Triple H allegedly said, no, let him talk. This is the most invested the audience has been in a Seth Rollins storyline in years. We'd be idiots to interrupt it. That's fascinating because it shows WWE recognizes they've stumbled onto something special with this storyline. Seth's raw emotion, his genuine anger, whether worked or shoot, his willingness to go to dark places, it's creating must-see television that money can't buy. The other wrestlers backstage were apparently glued to monitors watching Seth's promo. Several wrestlers were reportedly nodding in agreement when Seth talked about being pushed past his breaking point. Others were texting each other asking if Seth had gone off script or if this was all planned. The consensus was that even if it was scripted, Seth was adding so much of his own genuine emotion that it felt completely real. And that's the magic of great wrestling storytelling, when you can't tell where the work ends and the shoot begins. When a wrestler is so committed to their character and their motivation that their performance transcends typical wrestling promos and becomes something raw and real and compelling. Now let's analyze the implications of what Seth said, because every line had deeper meaning. I'll destroy you all. This isn't just a threat against Braun, Bronson, and Heyman. All suggests Seth's going after everyone involved, including WWE officials if necessary. He's declaring war on the entire system. Nothing to lose and everything to prove. This is dangerous psychology. A man with nothing to lose is capable of anything. Seth's essentially saying he doesn't care about consequences anymore, which makes him unpredictable and therefore more compelling. Bringing back that Seth Rollins was the biggest mistake, this is Seth threatening to go full heel again, to embrace the tactics that made him successful even if they made him hated. That's a game changer for his character. I know who it is. This creates paranoia among everyone on the roster. Anyone who has even slight heat with Seth is now wondering if he's the mystery mastermind Seth's referring to. The way WWE follows up on this promo will determine whether this becomes an all-time classic angle or a missed opportunity. They need to deliver on Seth's promises. They need to show him systematically taking out his enemies. They need to eventually reveal who the mastermind is in a way that makes sense and feels earned. If WWE does this right, we could be looking at a months-long storyline that culminates at WrestleMania with Seth finally getting his ultimate revenge. Imagine Seth's journey. He destroys Bronson Reed in a brutal match. Then he takes out Braun Breaker and potentially costs him whatever championship he's holding. Then he goes after Paul Heyman in some creative way that humiliates him publicly. And finally, he exposes and defeats the mystery mastermind in the main event of WrestleMania. That would be iconic storytelling that people would talk about for years. But if WWE drops the ball, if Seth loses momentum, if the matches aren't given proper time and investment, if the mystery mastermind reveal is disappointing, then this incredible promo becomes just another forgotten segment that promised more than it delivered. The wrestling world is watching to see which path WWE chooses. There's also the question of whether Seth's threats have real-world implications. When he called Paul Heyman a spineless, manipulative, lying son of a bitch on live television, that's pretty close to legitimate defamation if it were interpreted as shoot comments rather than character work. When he threatened to burn the company to the ground, that could be interpreted as threatening WWE's business interests. Now obviously, everyone understands this is wrestling and everything's part of the show. But Seth walked such a fine line between kayfabe and reality that some of his statements could theoretically cause problems if anyone wanted to make an issue of them. The fact that WWE let him say those things suggests they're fully committed to this edgy, boundary-pushing storyline. What should happen next week on Raw? Give me your fantasy booking in the comments. My prediction for next week's Raw? Seth Rollins doesn't show up at the arena at all. He attacks someone in the parking lot before the show starts. Or he ambushes Braun or Bronson at their hotel. Or he interrupts a different segment in street clothes and just beats the hell out of someone before security can pull him off. WWE needs to show that Seth wasn't making idle threats, he's actually dangerous now. The beauty of Seth's character at this moment is that he can do heel tactics while still being the babyface because his motivation is justified. Fans will cheer him attacking people from behind because those people attacked him first. They'll support his rule breaking because he's been wronged by the system. That's the perfect anti-hero character that audiences love. Think Stone Cold Steve Austin. Think CM Punk during his best runs. Think anyone who fought against authority and corruption and didn't care about playing by the rules. That's who Seth can become if WWE commits to this direction. The "I'll destroy you all" promo should be studied by every wrestling school as an example of how to cut an intense, emotional, believable promo that makes audiences care about what happens next. Seth hit every note perfectly: the anger, the vulnerability, the threats, the promises, the psychology of warfare. It was masterclass level promo work from one of WWE's best talkers. And the fact that he did it with minimal preparation, mostly off the cuff based on genuine emotion about Heyman's earlier promo, that makes it even more impressive. Seth Rollins proved once again why he's one of the most valuable performers WWE has, because he can take any situation and turn it into compelling television through sheer force of personality and commitment to character. So where do we go from here? We watch closely. We analyze every Seth Rollins segment for clues about the mystery mastermind. We watch for signs that Seth's embracing darker tactics. We anticipate the eventual confrontations with Braun, Bronson, and Heyman. And we debate endlessly about whether Seth's doing the right thing or if he's becoming the villain he claims to have moved beyond. That's good wrestling storytelling, when there are no easy answers, when characters have complexity and moral ambiguity, when audiences can debate and discuss and disagree about who's right and who's wrong. Make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling Newsletter because we're going to be covering every development in this storyline. We'll break down every promo, analyze every attack, investigate every clue about the mystery mastermind, and track Seth's journey from victim to destroyer. Hit that like button, share this video with every wrestling fan who needs to understand why Seth Rollins just delivered the promo of the year, and tell me in the comments, are you team Seth or do you think he's going too far? Paul Heyman addressed Seth's betrayal. Seth Rollins promised destruction in response. And Monday Night Raw is about to become a war zone. The only question is, who's going to survive when Seth Rollins makes good on his promise to destroy them all?